The best diesel heater review for ice fishing. We're going to be talking key points for ice fishing with the diesel heater that other videos don't tell you, or that they know about and don't want to tell you because they have some special link down below and they don't want to deter you from purchasing that product. I'm going to be open and transparent. Vevor sent me a diesel heater to review, and I'm going to give you my most open and honest review about it. The weather here in north central Manitoba, here on the North Basin of Lake Winnipeg, can be very brutal and unforgiving. And I've been waiting for a long time to review this diesel heater. Like waiting for the right weather. We've been fortunate enough to have a very mild beginning of winter here, and we've been waiting to just put it to the right test, I guess you would say, to just see if it would pass the harsh climates up here. And now for the review. I'll start off by saying mostly every diesel heater is all the same, all the internals. You have the heater, you have the blower motor, you have the fuel pump, you have the fuel tank, an electronic screen, and some of them come with Bluetooth. And then to power it all, you need a battery to power it all. And of course, you've probably heard other people talking about the ticking that happens inside, and now that's the fuel pump. But you are actually able to buy a low noise fuel pump for these diesel heaters. I got one from Amazon. It was like $30 or something, and it worked. It basically put zero sound in the Vevor diesel heater. I had it running over the holidays and it worked amazing. It worked awesome. I run the Otter Monster Lodge, the big double hub one, and it worked great in that. The temperature outside was -1 to -5 degrees. Even though it was fairly windy out, it kept everybody warm and happy. So we're basically just going to talk about the pros behind the Vevor diesel heater. First off, they're very cheap, very affordable. I believe mine is about that $140 to $150 range. And one thing about the diesel heater is you don't have to stoke it to keep it warm. Whereas right now I'm using a wood stove. I'm currently stoking it as we make this video. So with a diesel heater, it's very dry heat. So you don't get frost like built up all over the sides of your walls. And then again, with that frost, it's easy to put your tent away in the bag just as if it came out. Take this one with a grain of salt because you still could get carbon monoxide poisoning regardless. Always keep a carbon monoxide detector with you at all times, please. But running it outside, you have a less chance of getting carbon monoxide poisoning. The only way you would get carbon monoxide poisoning is if your intake was outside and it started inhaling your exhaust, if that makes sense. But if you have your intake hooked up to the tent and then your blower blowing the hot air from the tent, you get to recycle that warm air into the tent. They're great in stationary shacks, and if you have it down to a science, they're fairly easy to set up. And now I'm going to say this right now. I know I said it, but if you would like to purchase this heater for any of these specific reasons, so I'll link that down below in the description. Now before we start with the cons, I'm going to tell you what made me come up with these cons. My good friend Nathan, Nate's Baits, shout out. We headed out on an overnight, nothing in particular, just a regular overnight, and to test the diesel heater because I've never tested it. So this was our perfect time to go out and try it. And it started off really great, until we arrived to the spot. And I looked back and I saw that there's diesel fuel leaked all over the back of the snow machine. And the thing is, it's not like the tank was full. That was like the crazy thing. There was just a little bit left from last time that I used it. And that ended up being the first strike one. So after that, I carefully unloaded it, tried not to get any fuel on me, but everything was just covered in diesel. You could not avoid it even if you tried. And I got it all set up, and at this point I'm all baited, and we start fishing, and we did not catch an absolute single fish. Yeah, a fish all evening, all night. But not because I was covered up in diesel. That's you would more or less say fisherman there for that part. But still, strike two, it was not enjoyable. You're just covered in diesel. Like, I've used it even during the warmer holidays there, and you wear gloves and everything, your tent and everything still smells like diesel when you're not spilling it. So it's just tough. It's tough. It's really tough. When you want something to work so bad, it's tough. So we get, like, we're still fishing, right? We're about 4 or 5 hours into fishing, and me and Nathan, every now and then we'll look at each other and giggle because you could still see our breath, and a little bit goes on, and I'm just thinking to myself, I'm gonna be sleeping in this. I'm gonna be sleeping in this. Just, you could see your breath as if it was just still winter in the tent. And Nathan and I are looking at each other like, not saying it, but literally like, what are we doing out here? And after a couple more hours of not catching any fish, we decided that our 10-mile snowmobile ride home wasn't that far anymore. And we just called her quits. We pulled the plug. We said that's it. We went home for the night. And in the first time ever, like ever since I've started winter camping, you guys, I've slept on coolers as a cot. I flipped sleighs, like the boggins you pull behind the snowmobiles, upside down in the tent and slept on that. And for the first time ever, we pulled the plug on an overnight. And it was all because of insufficient heat. And that's where it leads me to the cons of the diesel heater. Alright. Long list here. No, I'm just kidding. Let me read them out for you guys. So, obviously, con. Traveling to your spot. Like with all the electronics, everything, you guys, I had it on the back of my snowmobile. That's where you put live scope, because you don't want it bouncing around and breaking, right? Like your most expensive accessory for ice fishing. You ride with it on the back of your snowmobile. And the lid, spilling everywhere, another con. Like, only way to avoid that really is like suck it right dry, I guess. And then after that, we have stinking up your tent like diesel. I know a lot of you guys are into heavy machinery. It's like you smell like diesel all day, and then what? You go out to your spot that you want to chillax and relax, ice fishing, and oh, what's that smell? Oh, diesel! Reminds you that you're back at the shop. And other ones, just if you refill it, you're careful as possible, and you might just spill a little bit, and then that smell lingers in the tent. And then, of course, another con right there, pollution. You spill that down your ice hole. If you're running it outside and it's not in a box, and like say you check the weather, and say you look forward and it says it's not supposed to snow, so you're just going to run your diesel heater outside, and then a snowstorm comes or the wind picks up and it starts blowing snow into your air intake of the diesel heater, then you're cooked. You're cooked. So if you go on a multiple day trip, you need a big enough battery to last, which adds more weight to your gear that you're already bringing. And then what if fishing picks up at a spot when you're winter camping and you decide to move, but then you're not charged up enough to move? It's not like you could just go, maybe say chop down some more trees to stay another day if your old lady lets you, but... And then here's another one where you run your diesel heater inside. These exhausts are like pretty cheap. So if your exhaust leaks, even if you might not even see it or smell it, it could still be leaking in your tent. That's just another dangerous point to, you should always have a carbon monoxide detector. In a way, it is a more complex setup. You have fuel lines, fuel pumps, you have little electronic screens. If any of that cracks, breaks, or bumps around in your sleigh or snowmobile on the ride in, once again, you're cooked. You gotta go home. Nothing. Can't fix it. You're out in the middle of nowhere. It's a con. Not sure if this is a con or if it's even true, but if you do get diesel on your hands and then you go to bait your hook, Then you got diesel on your hook. And then maybe if you're bring some people out and everybody else is catching, but you're not, I mean, that could be a con. Okay, and then for like myself, and I know a lot of other people who do the YouTube world, these diesel heaters sound like an absolute jet engine. Like, all the time. 24/7. There's no breaks. If you're out there for a weekend, 24/48. No, that would be 48/7. But yeah, it's just noisy if you're trying to film. Plain noisy. Especially if you're just like beginning YouTube. Like you're not using the lavalier mics or anything. And you just have your cell phone or whatnot. And that's it for the cons. So now the big question is, would I use this ice fishing? For some applications, absolutely. Absolutely would you use this ice fishing. If you got the bigger hub like I do, the Otter Monster Lodge, then I honestly wouldn't recommend using it in colder than -5 degrees Celsius. I would definitely use it around home if I didn't have to go very far. Or say like lots of people down south on the South Basin of Lake Winnipeg, I know they drive their trucks to where they need to go. So I know it's pretty bumpy riding a truck, but it's a lot less bumpy than a snow machine or a sleigh. So if you use a truck, I'd say it would be perfect for that. And just smaller hubs. I think my hub is just too big that the heat can't keep up. I think it would be perfect in the 8x8 Lodge, or what do they call those? 450 Eskimo XD something? Or 650 or the Resort, or the flip over would be great, probably. But for the flip over, if you're using it out far and not in the back of your truck, that would be risky to spill that all over your tent with a flip over. And in all honesty, I would just not use it for ice camping, because like some of you guys go on these crazy weekend camping trips that are they're just too much fun to just get there and then just turn around if you have something fail on you, you know? And that concludes this review. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And leave a comment. I want to hear you guys' feedbacks, because and I'm in a few Facebook groups where people are saying like, yeah, they're awesome, and like, no, they're not awesome. And like, from my standpoint, they're awesome in certain settings. They have limitations, just like anything else. But I really want to hear your guys' feedback. So leave us a comment, and I'll be happy to get back to you guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next episode of Stag on the Line. 4%, just got her done. Look at all my notes. Just read through all that for you guys. Hopefully it made sense. While I was reading it, it didn't make sense, but you know, editing process, you try to make it. And I'm getting sick. It is currently 10:53 p.m. Yeah, getting sick. Might have been the diesel heater there a couple nights ago. Actually, not last night. The night before is the night we called her quits. That was cold. She was blowing to 40. South wind too. Ugh. Not even a north.